Happy Friday, everybody. It's me. I'm back. It's Friday, which means it's Made Man Day. And today, I'm here discussing episode 8 of season 1, Hobo Code. I'm trying to think, did a ton happen in this episode? No, it was a lot of character stuff. We got to see a little bit of Sal outside of the office. We got to learn a little bit more about Peggy, and we got a little more background on Dawn, and Pete's still a creep. So, and I just finished watching it about 5 minutes ago. I'm going on instant thoughts. I'm probably going to get some stuff wrong. If I screw it up, I apologize in advance, but here I go. Kind of opens up on an early morning, about 7 o'clock. I think this is how it opened. Started with Peggy and Pete getting in the elevator together. Pete, from what I can tell, hates his life. You know, he's moving to his apartment that he didn't want, that his wife's parents are helping to pay for. He seems to be in a marriage he doesn't really want to be in. He seems a lot more interested in Peggy, and he just doesn't seem happy with what he's doing in his life. Maybe it's the choices are being made for him, and he's just kind of sleepwalking through them. But he starts to talk to Peggy about them, and while they're in the elevator, and the elevator operator's like, we're really sorry, the service elevator's out, do you mind? And they're like, no, I guess we don't mind. They really weren't that bad, but the fact that you have to ask so that the janitorial staff, a black guy, could come into the elevator without it being an issue. The fact that they even have to ask is sad, but it's just the times. They get off the elevator, they go into the office, and one thing leads to another, and they're banging in Pete's office. Pete, he's a creep. But when I first saw Pete show up at Peggy's door on that first episode, walk into her apartment and, get it on, I thought, wow, this guy's really taking advantage of this girl who's new to the city. But Peggy like it, okay? Peggy like Pete. That's why she's going for him. I mean, she initiated it. She was like, oh, yeah, this is great. This is what I want. Later on in the episode, they go out for a party, and she's dancing and having fun, and she tries to get him to dance, and he's like, I don't like seeing you like this. And then later on, she shows up early for work, looks in his office. He's not there. He's working with the guys. He comes in later, doesn't even look at her, and she's like, she is not happy about it. She's into Pete a lot, and maybe she likes the excitement of the fact that she's with a married man. She's with someone who's got his own office, pretty important guy, even if he's a junior exec, I don't know what he is. But the fact that she's not getting his attention now obviously bothers her. But what doesn't bother her is that she actually got her copy was liked by the clients. Don Draper had to do a little work. They edited the copy a little bit. He had to sell them on it, but eventually they turned around, they liked it, and she could see she actually did a little skip in her step. They offered her a drink to make her feel like she's one of the guys. I'm trying to think, that's most of what happened in the office that day. Peggy got her copy read. It was the lipstick guys, and obviously Pete and Peggy getting it on in the office. And also one of the girls who works at the reception, not the reception, but the operator, she heard Salvatore talking to his mother in Italian, and she found it really attractive. And they said he's tall, dark, and handsome. And she goes to see him in the art department, and she likes what she sees. Not having any idea that really Sal is a closeted gay guy. And they've never actually said that, but just the way, I think the actor himself is gay, I'm pretty sure, and the way he carries himself, the way he acts, you could see that he's kind of this closeted gay guy. I don't know how closeted he is, because it kind of comes out in this episode. He, instead of going to the party with the people, he ends up meeting one of these lipstick executives out for a drink. And now the guy said, "Oh, you understood what I meant by it being, revamped." I don't know if he meant that was code to just meet me here, But that's what happened. The two of them met. They had a couple drinks. They talked over dinner. This guy was really talking him up. He's talking about how whenever he gets a room in New York, he loves having a view. And then at the end, he's like, you really got to come to my room and see my view. He takes Sal's drink, gives a little sip himself, basically saying, look, I want to drink from the same cup as you. I'm guessing. I don't know if that's code. But Sal was not into it, which was, to me, it's either Sal is not just looking for a dude to go home with, or Sal is either so closeted he's afraid to even do this because it may come back to hit him, or he himself is not completely sure with who he is yet. That's what I got from that. I wasn't sure, but the guy's like, what do we have to lose? And he's like, are you kidding? So I think the big one was, how I can't do this to someone who's associated with my business, because if this comes back to haunt me, it comes back to bite me in the ass, I'm screwed at work. Which, again, kind of a sad existence that people, I mean, then would have to go through much worse than some people still do it now. But I think that covers everything in the workplace. But it doesn't, because earlier in the episode, Dawn got called into Cooper's office, not Sterling. There was no Sterling in this episode. There was one reference where Joan said, if I think she said, if Mrs. Sterling calls, have her routed to my number. There was something about that, but nothing happened with that. But Roger Sterling wasn't in this episode at all. Cooper did call Dawn into his office, kind of said, you're a basically talked a bunch of mumbo jumbo about how good of a worker he is. Talked about this book, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, and basically said you should buy a copy with this check I give you, and gave him a bonus check of $2,500. Don was like, I don't even know why I got this, but he was like, $2,500. Look, if I got a bonus check today for $2,500, okay, I'd friggin' do a dance. The fact that you're getting that in 1960, it must have been humongous feeling, okay, even for a rich ad exec. But does Don go home and, splurge on his family? Does Don do anything like that? No. What does he do? He goes over to his girlfriend's house and basically wants to take her home, take her to Paris. So let's go to Paris right now. I'm like, is he serious? Was he serious talking about Paris right now? But she's with her kind of hippy dippy friends, and they're hanging out, and they just want to listen to Miles Davis and smoke some weed and get high. And they talk the square ad man into sticking around. This kind of leads to Dawn getting a little high, going to the bathroom, and having some flashbacks, which lead to the title of the episode, Hobo Code. And I'm trying to think how this pertains to now. Because why would they show this? Why would they show any of this stuff? They want to give us a background to Don Draper, Dick Whitman, little Dickie Whitman, living on this farm with a woman and a guy. I don't know who these people are. Is that the father, but a different mother? I do not know. I assume that's the father, but I'm not sure. Because earlier they showed a woman saying, Dick, look, this is your brother. He's not my brother. Or sure it is. You just have different, same daddy, different moms, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. So then that must be the dad who has a bunch of different women that he impregnates, I guess. But this hobo comes up. He's like, I'm looking for work. Can you help me out? Can you give me a meal? And they allow this guy to come into his house. He is Ryan. I think his name was Ryan. I don't want to say Ryan Russillo because that's an ESPN guy. This guy was on 24. He played an agent named Ryan, and he's a great actor. So he's kind of there to basically say, I'm from New York, and I'm on hard times, and now he rides the rails. And he ended up eating dinner with the family. You could see that the woman that was there was talking about how, are you a communist? They're different people. They can't be saved. Are you, are you a worker? Do you know how to work? Blah, 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 blah. She gives him a coin, and the guy, who I think is Dick's dad, Don's dad, takes the coin away and says, after you work for it. So the guy works for him all day, and he doesn't get the coin. Because why? Because Dick Whitman's dad is a dick. Get it? the night before, so the guy stays over the night, and the hobo talks to Dick Whitman, and he's like, I used to have a wife and a mortgage, and now I just ride the rails. I gave it all up, and I changed my life. So I wonder if that is the kind of the glimpse to get out of this episode, was this hobo is the guy who came along one day and said, I didn't like the life I was living. I left it, and I started a new life. And that is exactly what Don Draper did, Dick Whitman did. So it must have stuck with him. And Dick and the hobo tells him, here's a chalk. This is what we use to mark houses to see if they're safe. We put a little circle with an X in it. That means it's a pie. And this food here, we do this little jagged marks, meaning there's a dog here, crying eye, a story to tell. And then this hook, I think it was a hook, which means a dishonest man lives here. That was the only one I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it seemed like a hook. And the next day, the dad does not give the hobo the money. He just says, be on your way now. And the guy leaves. And Don chases after him, and he sees on his post the same little sign was made of a dishonest man works here, or lives here. So he looks at his father, I'm assuming his father, for the first time, maybe, as, wow, this guy is a dick. So I think all that does is kind of lead us to the first time that Don Draper probably thinks, hey, Dick Whitman thinks, I don't need this life. I could leave this life. I could move on and start a new life. I mean, did I cover everything already? Last week, I feel like I talked for a half an hour. I mean, I was walking around chasing my dog, but a half hour went by. And this time I've talked for like 11, 12 minutes, and I feel like I've covered everything in this episode. It wasn't as jam-packed as the last one. The last one had a lot going on. There was no Betty at all in this one. There was no Roger Sterling, as I said. We did get a glimpse of Don's house. So Don had these flashbacks. He's with the hippie dippies, and he kind of starts arguing with them like, look, there is no us against you. There's no the man. It's just this is life, And meanwhile, there's a guy outside getting arrested, and they're like, you can't go out there. And Don looks at them. He's like, you can't. He goes out there with his hat on, and the police will respect him. They're like, hello, sir, because Don is a different ilk, different person. He's playing around with the camera before he leaves, and he takes a picture of his girlfriend and another guy there, and he could just tell that they're in love. I don't know if this is the end of this girl. This might be the last time he sees this girl, because he takes the check for Paris. He says, let's go. And she's like, really? I can't do it. He takes the check, signs his name to it, gives it to her, and basically says, go buy yourself a new car, and leaves. To me, at this point, just seeing now, not knowing where we go from here, I think that's him saying, goodbye. Time for me to move on. I don't know if that's also from the hobo. When it's time to move on, it's time to move on. When it's time to change, it's time to rearrange. So, obviously, Don works from 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night or whatever. I don't know. He gets home late at night, creeps into the house, goes and wakes his son up and just says, ask me anything. And the son's like, I'm tired. He goes, just ask me anything. And his son's like, why do lightning birds light up? He goes, I don't know, but I'll never lie to you. And he gives him a hug, and he falls asleep in his kid's bedroom just with his son all night. So the flashback probably made him realize that his dad was a friggin' a-hole, and his dad was dishonest, and he will not be that kind of person. He left that life behind. He's going to be good to his son, and he just needs to tell himself that. That's why he woke up his son, just to tell him that he'll never lie to him. So I thought that was, just a neat little thing. And then that really is the episode, right? I mean, we had the next day. That's the next day. I talked about the kind of this already, where Peggy goes early to work. No one's there. She's working. Pete Bailey pays attention to her. And Don comes in, and she's like, good morning, Peggy. And we just see the back of Don's head. He goes into the office, close the door, and they zoom in on the words, Donald Draper, because that is what matters now. That life is gone. He does not want anything to do with that life anymore. He left it behind. He is that kid's son. He is that daughter's dad. No, he's that kid's dad, that daughter's dad. He's Betty's husband. He is Donald Draper. There is no Dick Whitman. Dick Whitman was another life a long time ago. Remember with his brother, he gave his brother money. Boom, I never want to see you again. Now he's with his ex-girlfriend. He gives her the check for $2,500. Probably I never want to see you again. So it's like a little pay and have a nice day. That's how he does it. That's how he roll. And my friends, I think I've covered this entire episode. Now, what's up, Greg? See, there, boom. That's for someone who's listening, who I know is listening. I'm in my basement walking around because I was told by one of my friends that the crickets were too much. And guess what? They're friggin' crazy tonight. And I did not want to do it again. You might hear clicking. That's my knee because I'm old and I'm rickety. But no crickets. No crickets for me. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening. It's kind of crazy. I almost forgot to watch Mad Men today. If you go onto Google, you type in Lawrence Andover. Just type those words into Google, and you will see some crazy fires have been going on. Gas mains that backed up and burst. And there were like 50, 60, maybe even more fires. And these are the towns right next to the town I live in. So it's been all over the news all day. And I've just been kind of following it all evening. And then I realized I got to stop looking at the news for at least for 45 minutes so I can see what's going on with Don Draper. And I can talk about it because I have really weird priorities in my life. Anyway, that's it. I am done. So I want to thank you for listening. And you found me already. You're listening to me right now. You know where I am. But let's say you're listening to me on Anchor. Thank you for finding me on Anchor. But I'm also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Overcast. That's one that I haven't even mentioned. Overcast. And we're not on Spotify yet, but someday. How can you talk to me? Well, you can email me, mademan@fansnotexperts.com. Send me an email. Send me your questions. Send me your thoughts. You haven't done it yet, but maybe you will. Maybe you will. Or you're on a text chain with 7 other guys I know, and you're listening to this right now. You can always send me your questions through the text chain. You know who you are. You could follow me on Twitter, @MadeManPod. All one word. You can follow me there. Every episode gets posted there. You can follow us on Facebook. fansnotexperts.com is the Facebook page. Or you can go to the official website, fansnotexperts.com/mademan. We are 8 episodes in, 8 episodes of Made Man, 8 episodes of Mad Men. And we're more than halfway through the first season. And that's how we're going to do this. This is season 1 of Mad Men, but it's also season 1 of Made Man. At the end of every season, we're going to move on to the next season. It's not just episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. We are going season by season. I have just as many episodes as Mad Men. None more, none less. I don't even know. Now I'm rambling. But what I want you to do is subscribe, follow, listen. Go on iTunes. Leave me a review. That would blow my mind, okay? If I would have a review from iTunes. It would allow more people to find me. The more reviews you get on iTunes, the more iTunes pushes you up and the more people will find you to give you more reviews. It's a vicious circle of just ridiculousness. And I thank you for listening. And I thank you as I go along this path of watching every episode of Mad Men so that I one day can become a made man.
Fans not experts.